So I want to talk a little bit this evening about what makes this meeting so unusual, so different than just about everything else out there. And so here, there's nothing given for the me to do. No strategies, no advice, no suggestion, nothing. Because here at this meeting, the message is there's only what's happening. Just this, sound of my voice, sitting in your chair, listening, birds chirping. And nobody's doing what is. Nobody's making what is happen, so nobody can stop making what is happen, because there is nobody. There's just what's happening. And what's happening doesn't have any division. There's not a me in a world. There's not a me and a you. There's no separation. And so anything can arise. Feeling good can arise. Feeling shitty can arise. Having a headache can arise. Feeling really clear and sharp can arise. It's the simplicity of just whatever is happening. And so the me is always on a journey trying to get somewhere, trying to escape what is, trying to get to a better what is. Its version of what is, what it imagines could be, might be, somewhere in the future. And that's all imagination. And what is isn't personal. Nobody owns what is. Nobody knows what is. Nobody understands what is. Because there's just what is. So there's nothing separate from what is to know or understand it. And that's all the me is trying to do, is to know and to understand so it can use that information, so it can control, and so it can get to where it thinks it needs to go. But that's all a dream. And a dream actually gets nowhere. It's like if you have a dream at night and you travel to the Grand Canyon or travel to another planet. Upon awakening, you realize you never went anywhere. It was all imagined. Those thoughts are not yours. Those feelings are not yours. These sounds are not yours. Nothing belongs to anyone. And that's the freedom. As soon as I think I own something, that's the suffering. And so everything is unknown. Unknowing is your natural state. The imagination is that I know. And so this is an open meeting. Everybody's invited to participate. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to unmute and jump in.
Well, I want to share that what I did earlier, or what I shared earlier, what had happened in my session with Nkosi is he kept bringing me back right to what was going on right now, like what is. And I fought very hard not to be with what is. And my mind was very active because I wanted to get away from the pain. And that's why I got so annoyed with him. And but as I stayed with him, as he brought my mind back into my heart, there was a total opening at that point. And I really could see how my mind keeps this thing running, and that even though I hear all these beautiful words every night I'm here, and those are beautiful words, it was that experience on Saturday that really opened my heart, because I had to, or not that I had to, but I did. I couldn't escape what is, because it was so in my face. And that was amazing to see that transition within me. And now I do experiment with that more myself, is just to be quiet and see what's going on in my heart and my body, and drop out of my head. But that head is very active. That mind is very active in many ways. And that was pretty awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So when I talk about unknowing, I'm talking about literally everything. Not knowing what a thought is, not knowing what pain is, not knowing what a feeling is, not knowing anything. This is unknowable. You could say it's unknowing appearing as knowing. So the knowing is an illusion. That I know. That there's a me here who knows something. That's the illusion. There's no one inside that body. And it's not just that there's no one inside that body right now. It's that there's never been anyone inside the body. So talking just seems to happen spontaneously. Listening just seems to happen spontaneously. It doesn't require a me for listening to take place. It doesn't require a me for talking to take place. It's just happening all by itself spontaneously. No one's doing it.
But I think what Alice referred to was to come into the body. She said heart opening and sort of my understanding, she's speaking of coming into the body. And I had a conversation with Alan about, and Peter, that too, about, I think that can be a tool. To come into the body can be a tool to get out, to getting out of the head. Even though there is no, we are not the body, whatever, but I think it's like a stepping stone to get out of this. No? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, anything can arise. So that can appear to arise.
It's just that when you're in that, when you're in that space of being caught up in the head, the washing machine and the thoughts, whatever, how do you get out of that? And I think my experience has been that to connect with the body can lead you out of that and into the spaciousness of no self.
Right. So that's not the message that this meeting that's being shared here. The message that's being shared here is there already is no one already.
Yeah, well, is the illusion of what's when you're caught up in the illusion of that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, Faith. It can certainly feel that way.
Yeah.
But again, an illusion is still an illusion, even if can seem like a rainbow. You know, a rainbow definitely looks like it's there, but go and try and grab the rainbow. Try and hold on to the rainbow. You can't, because it's an illusion. So I understand that it can feel like I'm suffering, but
Mm.
there already, the message here is there's already no one there to do or not do anything. So in a way, Faith, whatever you do is perfectly fine, or whatever Alice did is perfectly fine. You know, you can't go wrong, because there's only what's arising. So taking aspirin, or, you know, taking a shot, whatever arises is simply what's arising, but it doesn't mean there's a me there.
Yeah.
What struck me, Faith, when as you were talking, it was just the notion, or what stands out is the notion that we have to, like the intention or the desire to get out of the head, or just that something needed to be done, something that we want something to be different than what is. That's kind of like the tripping point for me, when I'm not realizing that it is what it is already, and it's like that can't be it. There must be, you know, there must be something else to get to, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the illusion, Peter, that there's an it to get to, that there's somewhere else that you can get to. There's not. There's just what's happening. So if pain is arising, if a story is doing the washing machine, that's simply what's arising. And you didn't bring that, and so you can't take it away. It will leave on its own, sort of like a cloud. We use the cloud as a metaphor. A cloud can show up and a cloud can drift away. You didn't bring the cloud, and you can't take it away. It's just what's happening.
Totally. And I tell you what happened as you were speaking earlier. There was like, it's tricky to say this, but there was no resistance to what was said. However, there was this underlying tone of, what the fuck would I know? How the hell would I know? You know, it's like Michael says it, I couldn't find it, you know, elsewhere said, and I just really don't know. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and I know it's a remnant of a me that thinks it has to buy it or reject it or believe it or not believe it, or and I guess what I'm hearing you say is it really doesn't matter. It's just what's appearing.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly it, Peter. You can't say one way or the other. That's the freedom of unknowing. You can't say should this headache be here? Should it be gone? I don't know. It seems to be here. Seems to be what's arising. So to say it shouldn't be here, you know, that sounds like suffering.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that I did some injustice in speaking the way I did, because underlying all this stuff, and possibly very primary, was Nkosi was pointing me to the one who, where is the individual who's suffering? Where's the one? And we had a lot of dialogue about finding the one who was suffering. And I wrote a whole bunch of different things, questions to ask myself about that, because that was critical to what seemed to be dropping into my heart, which is also, there is no heart really, but something did fall away as I mean, I felt this incredible softness.
Yeah.
But the critical part about it was, where's the individual who's suffering? Can you find that one? And dialogue like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like
Beautiful.
you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. No, beautiful. So what Nkosi was pointing out to Alice is, in story, it feels like there's a me there who's suffering. I can tell a story, right, about this me. No, Nkosi, you don't understand. I'm really suffering. Stop drinking your tea. Listen. But Nkosi, persistently, relentlessly points to Alice and says, where's that one? Where's that victim? Can that one be found? And lo and behold, when you go to look for it, what do you find, Alice?
Nothing. I did find nothing. Did he have that posted already? Is that how you knew so well what he said?
No, I don't know. I know.
I mean, you're about saying exactly what he said to me.
You might have heard it before.
Right.
It's the best kept secret.
Well, because when I'm suffering and I'm caught in story, I'm assuming there's a me there that's the victim. So what Nkosi was doing is saying, well, look now. Is there, he's kind of breaking your story. Like he's trying to, break that cycle and just say, for God's sakes, for 1 second, just let's look to see if you can find the victim.
And you know what's really tough about that, Michael, is for all these years or all this time, I took it totally for granted that there was a victim there. It's like the voice in my head has been mistaken or just assumed to be something. The me has always thought it was real. And so it's quite a radical shift to hear the message that stuff like it can't be found when you really look. It's like, oh, you're telling me what I thought all these years is not here. It's a challenge.
Sure. Yeah, some of us have been, in a story, you could say, listen, I've been a me for 60, 70 years. Don't tell me I'm not a me.
Right, exactly.
So
Very
that's why we talk about, I'm sorry, Alice, I just want to say, that's why we talk about resonance. This can't be explained. Go ahead, Alice.
No, I'm just repeating my story. It's very annoying, Peter. You bet.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very annoying when that happens.
So that's why it can't be figured out. Like the me will try and say, okay, well, let me see if I can find there's no me. Well, that's a joke,
Yes.
right? How's the me gonna find there's no me? It's a joke. So, but if there's a resonance, Nkosi, myself, and several other speakers who talk about this, talk about just the resonance. There's something in you that just says, yeah, that's the piece. And it is beyond all understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't require understanding because that would be more knowledge.
Mm-hmm. It really seems like letting go is helpful to just be here and I was, as you were speaking, I let it all go, what I said and what I thought, and yes, and I'm not going to try to describe the resonance. It just it rings a bell. Let's put it that way. It just is. It just is, and leaving it at that is helpful.
Well, let's take a look. So let's look right here. So what is happening right now? Let's just take a look. There seems to be 10 people at a Zoom meeting. So you're sitting there, you're watching this Zoom meeting. Is there anything else happening?
Is that a trick question?
Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I mean, because right now I've got two dogs running around the house going nuts. I can barely hear what's happening. The two of them are barking, yelling, and knocking down furniture. But, it's just this. He's agreeing with me. I'm leaving the sound off so you can enjoy the sound, hearing them.
What I'm saying is, if you don't go to the past, and that's where me lives, is in the past. If you don't go to past, what is actually here now? What is going on here now without referring to the past?
Well, there's sensory perceptions. There's just stuff like sounds, colors, and light, and maybe thoughts. It's stuff comes and goes. Appearances, I guess they call them.
I like to think of it as the simplicity of what is. What is so simple. The mind is so complicated. And so if you're a fan of simplicity, there's just, you know, sipping of the tea, listening to somebody speak, shifting in your chair, scratching. It's all very simple. It's when the mind gets in that it becomes very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I was thinking of how I could explain to my 17-year-old granddaughter how I view the world because of listening and joining this group and listening to this message. And I just think to myself, I've tried everything to make my life work. Just tried absolutely everything. And this makes my life work. Like I had a following following last week's gathering, I had a nasty car accident, and it's been very inconvenient, and I'm going to lose my car for months on end, and I felt my normal thing would have been to feel very guilty because I was the driver at fault, and a young girl smashed in the side of my car. And in the past, I would have felt terrible guilt and shame, but I had to just bring myself into here. What is here? And I can't describe it really in a short few sentences, but this message was just so precious. Like when you say there's no past and there's no future, and then it just makes me stay with what is, because I realized my old habit is go into the past. Oh no, I shouldn't have done that. Why didn't I see her? What's wrong with me? Or I can go into the future and think, oh shit, I'm going to be without a car for 6 months, and how am I going to cope? I have to get there into what's now, and it's been so helpful and precious. And then I think I've just had a sense of, well, this is how to live life. This is sort of how you're meant to live life. You're not meant to be in the past or in the future. Yeah, it's taken me a long time to sort of.
Actually, Faith, you're not meant to live life at all.
No, I thought you'd probably shoot some holes in it, but that life is work. Life works. It's like life works for me. Is that any help?
Well, that again, that's not the message that's being shared here, because that's duality. There's me and my life, and I'm trying to live my life. So that's two. The message here is that there's only life, and life doesn't belong to you or me, the rain, the sun, the flowers, dogs, cats, car accidents. None of it belongs to anyone.
Yeah. Well, that's the sort of stuff I'm probably all in duality, but that's the sort of talk or messages that I've been feeding myself. And all I'm just trying to report that I do a whole lot better when I don't know. I do a whole lot better because of this message. And I know there's no me, but that's
Well,
best I can.
yeah, I understand, Faith. One of the things that Nkosi will say to Alice is, do nothing. Do nothing. Because the me is so busy. Not only am I trying to do as a me, but what? I'm trying to do the right thing. Yeah? Constantly, the me is under pressure to not only do, but do the right thing and hope it doesn't fuck up. That's an impossibility. That's suffering.
Yeah, well, I think I let go of that doing the right thing because of this message. In that instant with the car accident, I think I let go of that. And it was just like, this is what's happening. And it wasn't like, I've got to do it right. It's just like, I suppose it's an absence of judgment or something about judgment.
It's actually simpler than that, Faith. All that's happening right now is you're sharing a story about your car accident.
I'm also hearing, not to dispute what is said, I'm also hearing you're reporting progress and you're somewhat pleased that things are easing up, and you're crediting this message that you're picking up here to ease it up, and so that's being definitely heard here as well.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah, but that's also this too. So it's perfect, Faith, right? So whatever's happening, whether it's using a tool to get into your body or you're getting a message from here, if it makes you feel better, it's this. In other words, it's unavoidable. And so I would say that whatever tools you use are this too. If it makes you feel better, because Michael uses the word all the time, resonate, which I love. If it resonates with you, maybe that's a simpler way of describing what you're talking about. You're doing actions that are resonating with you because maybe it's more of a non-me state that you're accessing. And so I would sort of say similar to what Peter said, that it's, if you're getting a message that's helping, I don't want to put Peter in that boat, but I'll say it. If you're getting a message from my world view that is helping you and it's resonating well, I think it's wonderful.
I think the point is, though, that, my me is very pleased that you're okay, Faith. But I think the point is, well, there's two things. One is that there is no me to feel better, right? There's no me to think these thoughts. There's no me that actually got her to sit here with us tonight. And right, so that it's just happening. It just happened. That the thoughts just occurred. That the teaching, the thought about the teaching just occurred, and therefore the thing we identify as the body had a sense of relief and calm after what would be thought of as a traumatic incident. But then the second point, which I'll throw back at Michael, because he once said, which he might never remember saying, but it was back in the Eckhart Tolle days at the Eckhart Tolle meetup. And he said, look, here's the problem here's the deal with this non-duality stuff. If I'm at lunch or dinner with Eckhart Tolle, I'm going to say, hey, Eckhart, pass me the salt, right? So you've got to use language to explain stuff. So she has to be able to say me and my body and calm.
Okay. Okay, beautiful. So you don't need a me to say, hey, Eckhart, pass the salt.
It's just a happening.
Exactly. It's just happening spontaneously. Nobody's doing anything.
But boy, did you need that salt. Because that's why you asked.
Actually, I've had to cut salt out of my diet.
That was the past. So
Yeah. So that's the freedom of this message, is nobody's ever done anything. Hi, Nkosi, welcome.
Hi, Michael. Hello, everyone.
And Nkosi.
Hi, Alice.
Can I also pick up on a comment that Dan made last time, but off camera, and he said something like, if you had an Eckhart Tolle meetup, you might get 90 people to the gathering, whereas when you have this sort of a meetup, you only get 9. Dan, is that something like what you said?
Well, I don't remember saying that, but it makes sense, and that would be the reason for that would be that, I mean, just generalizing here, but the point would be that the way Eckhart speaks, his message is very much speaking to someone, and it generally it is giving a someone something to do to get in order to get free. And that would be true with most communications that are not of this particular, what we would call radically non-dual, kind. So that's a difference, and that's why it's going to be appealing to many more people, and it's much more. It's understandable. This message isn't really understandable in that way. So yeah, so it's different in that sense, although it's also very similar in many ways too.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
And just for an example, I mean, it sounds like this is different than Eckhart and different than a lot of, things we can think of. But Michael just said, actually, he was quoting Nkosi, I think. So both of them, well, Michael just said, do nothing. Okay? Sounds like a very clean, clear, non-dual thing, but of course, who can do nothing? Who is it? Who's the one who would do nothing? So essentially, do nothing is another instruction of something to do, right? So my point being that we're not saying one thing is right or one thing is wrong. We're not saying don't do this and don't do this. That's not the way it is. We're in communication. We use language, so but we do here. Hopefully, we're pointing to the fact that there isn't anyone. There just isn't anyone separate from anything, and there isn't anything that needs to be done.
So Dan, would you say then is the message, because there is a message, of course, like a direction. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but is the message then ultimately not to be free? I mean, you can say we already are free, or we already are resignation. There's no one, or you can say there's no one there to be free. I get that. But we are having a Zoom meeting and we are getting some direction and some suggestions or principles. So I guess just like you said, with just the phrase alone, do nothing is a direction, or it's a tool. It's a great tool. I love it. But what's the purpose? Like, I'm actually asking this as almost rhetorically, like what is the purpose then of a tool to do nothing? What's the end game or end goal from your vantage point, would you say?
Okay, well, good, tricky question. I mean, in a way, you're kind of saying really what I was just saying. You're kind of playing on the same point, because there clearly is no, you're asking me, I would say there is no endpoint, there is no goal, there is no intention or anything to be done. But at the same time, the other part of that is that we are talking, and we are apparently people who have come together to do something for, there, and we are speaking and we are communicating. So both of those things are together. They're not separate. But yeah, so I mean, you can fall on either side. Okay, the answer is there is no answer. That there's no clear logical answer to that question. But it's just an expression of nothing to do, no separation. And in a way, that is a response to the fact, to something showing up here that seems like a separation. And there's a paradox there, because why would you care about separation? What's wrong with separation, right? That's kind of your question. If there's isn't there an intention to do something about the separation? It would seem like there would be, because otherwise, why are we here and why are we talking? So what I'm saying is that you're not going to find an answer to that, because it's in the paradox of the fact that there seem to be separate people, and there seems to be a world, and it seems to be a problem for a me. There seems to be a me. So we talk about that, but at the same time, it's a seems to, it's an illusion, it's not true. And so there is freedom. You're talking about freedom. Yeah, in a way, it is a pointing to freedom. So that's the answer to the question. There is the intention in a way. I'm admitting it, that there is in some sense, it's pointing to freedom, but the freedom is what is. It's not freedom for anyone. It's not a freedom that needs to be seen or needs to be, attained or realized or anything like that. So it's the best I can do. You ask
So let's ask Nkosi. Nkosi,
Yeah, let's get the real
when you
answer.
say to Alice, do nothing, what do you mean?
Nobody ever does anything. It's just what's happening. So to say do nothing or to say nothing is the same. It doesn't mean anything. There's only what's appearing. It's just everything appearing as that. So there's no doer. It doesn't matter if it may appear as if there's a doer. There's already no doer. It's just everything expressing itself. As I always say, nobody has ever said anything. Nobody has ever done anything, because there isn't anyone here. It's just what is expressing itself. So it doesn't matter what seems to be individual may say, because there isn't any individual. It's just wholeness appearing. So there's no wrong or right. Everything is okay. Whether there seem to be an instruction given, it's not that that instruction is given to someone. It's just what's appearing. So there isn't anyone here. to do anything or to know anything, to understand anything. All the words that seem to be used are just concepts, because really, they can't really describe this, because it's just everything. There's no separation. So there's no wrong or right. Everything is beautiful. Even what seems to be the story is just everything appearing. Even what seems to be an individual who seems to be in the story is just everything. So there's no separation. So an instruction that says there's nobody here, it doesn't stop what seems to appear. It's not an instruction to block or to stop what seems to be appearing. Everything may continue as it is, you know, and it's beautiful. So there are no individuals here. That's the point. There are no individuals. There is no one here. So it may seem as if there's somebody talking, but that's just an imagination appearing. That somebody is imagined to separate somebody. And that's not wrong or right. It's just what seems to be happening. And what seems to be happening now, right now, has got nothing to do with what seems to be a separate person, because that's one, it's not already. So there's nothing wrong here. Everything is beautiful, just the way it is. Even what seems to be a practice is just what is appearing. An instruction given to what seems to be a certain somebody, that's just what is appearing as that. So there isn't anything wrong or right here. There are no rules and regulations. This is unlimited. There are no limits to what is. No matter which shape or form it may appear to be, it's just what is. There is no escape. All is this, leaves nothing or nobody outside to teach, to know, or to understand this. So it doesn't really matter what's going on, what seems to be happening, because everything is just an expression of this. The seeker, what seems to be the seeker, is already this. The one who seems to be helping what seems to be the seeker is already this. So there's nothing outside of this. Nobody outside of this. There is no escape. So everything is beautiful because everything is just an expression of this. There are no individuals. If it seems as if they are individuals, that's okay too. Because it's just this. There's no separation. So this doesn't mind what may seem to happen. You know, life has no rules. There's no instructions. It may appear in whichever way. It's just life expressing itself. The one who's arguing, the one who's disagreeing, the one who's agreeing, it's all the same. It's just this. There's no escape. So this doesn't mind what seems to be the story. It doesn't really mind. Because everything is just this. If something seems to mind about the story, it might be an imagination that's appearing in this as this imagination of being somebody. It's also this. There is no escape. Yeah. There is really nothing to do and nobody to do anything. Are there any questions?
That was just an incredible gem, Nkosi. I resonated with just about everything you said. That feels really good. That was a gem.
You're welcome.
So just to Alan, your question about if there's no separation and no people and no division, then why are we here? Why are we talking? Why are we, and there isn't an answer to that that's logical. I mean, that's why we talk about resonance and what Alice just reported, resonance. And so that's the reason. I mean, but it doesn't answer a question really, because the questions will always be there. And the question, the no separation is also appearing as separation. So then we ask the question, well, why and how do these things actually really fit together? And so there really isn't, because we're using language and we're speaking as people. I'm just saying that there just isn't an answer that makes sense logically. And that's why we say it's ultimately just resonating, not explaining and not giving, not teaching, and not giving actually anything that the mind will really understand.
All right, so I'm going to leave you with this. How do you practice what is? How do you practice what is? Thank you guys very much for coming. We love each and every one of you so much. Nkosi, brother, thank you so much for coming. Everybody have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.